didn't go anywhere. That's the part nobody understands. When they look at you and say, you changed. You didn't go on a retreat. You didn't find a mentor. You didn't read a book that cracked you open or have a conversation that rearranged everything. You didn't travel to some place that gave you perspective or hit some rock bottom moment that the movies say is supposed to be the turning point. You just stopped. You stopped performing. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped showing up to places that were draining you dressed as belonging. You stopped carrying relationships that were eating you alive dressed as loyalty. You stopped being the version of yourself that everyone around you had gotten comfortable with, the one that was easy to predict, easy to manage, easy to keep exactly where he was. You went quiet, and in that quiet, something happened that nobody on the outside could see. You rebuilt. Not quickly. Not cleanly. Not in a way that made sense while it was happening, but completely. In the silence and the absence and the disappearance that everyone around you had opinions about, you were doing the most important work of your life. And when you came back, you came back different. Not better in the way people say it to make it sound simple. Different in the way that means the old version is genuinely gone. Different in the way that means the things that used to have power over you have lost it. Different in the way that means you can stand in the same rooms, face the same situations, encounter the same people, and respond from a completely different place inside yourself. That is not motivation. That is transformation. And today I want to talk about what that actually is, what disappearing actually means, what gets built in the silence, and why the person who came back had no room, not as a choice, not as an attitude, but structurally, fundamentally, had no room for who you used to be. Let me start at the beginning, because most people who disappear don't plan it. It's not a strategy in the beginning. It doesn't start as a decision you make with clarity and intention. It starts as exhaustion. It starts as the quiet realization that the life you're living is costing you more than it's giving you, and you don't have the language for it yet. You just have the feeling. The feeling that you are spending yourself on things that don't deserve you. That the version of yourself you bring to your daily life is a performance of someone you stopped being a long time ago, and you just haven't updated the presentation. That the people around you know a character and not a person. That you wake up and the day is already decided before it begins and none of the decisions feel like yours. That feeling is not weakness. That feeling is intelligence. Your nervous system telling you something fundamental. That the life you're in is built for a version of you that no longer exists, and continuing to live it is not sustainable, not honest, and not who you actually are anymore. Most people silence that feeling. They silence it with noise, with busyness, with more plans and more goals and more reasons why they're on the right track, even when everything in them is saying otherwise. They silence it because listening to it would require change, and change would require loss. And loss is the thing that the human mind is most architecturally designed to avoid. But some people, the ones who eventually come back different, some people don't silence it. They follow it into the quiet. Ooh. The disappearance is not running away. I need to be precise about that, because that is how it gets framed by the people who don't understand it. The people who call it selfish. The people who call it giving up. The people who need you to stay exactly where you are, because your staying confirms that where they are is okay. The disappearance is not running away from your life. It is running toward yourself. There is a version of you that has never had space to exist. That has been crowded out by noise, by obligation, by the accumulated weight of who everyone around you decided you were before you had the chance to decide for yourself. That version has been trying to get through for years, in the moments of quiet that you quickly fill, in the exhaustion that hits at the end of days that were full of the wrong things, in the restlessness that shows up when everything is fine on paper and nothing feels right underneath. That version needed space, and space requires disappearance. Because you cannot build something new in a room full of the old thing. You cannot become someone different while being surrounded by everything that confirms and reinforces who you were. The environment you're in is not neutral. It is active. It is constantly, continuously feeding back to you a version of yourself, your role, your position, your ceiling, your character, and as long as you stay immersed in it, that feedback shapes you whether you intend it to or not. Disappearing removes you from the feedback loop, and in the silence of that removal, you get to hear yourself for the first time, sometimes in years, sometimes for the first time ever. Let me tell you what the silence actually feels like, because it is not peaceful in the beginning, not even close. In the beginning, the silence is terrifying, because in the silence, there is nothing between you and yourself. No noise to hide behind, no performance to maintain, no relationship to manage or role to play or identity to uphold, just you. And for most people who have spent years being whoever the room needed them to be, that direct encounter with themselves is one of the most disorienting experiences of their lives. Because what shows up in the silence is not always comfortable. What shows up is everything you have been running from. The grief you haven't processed. The anger you learned wasn't acceptable, so you buried it until it started leaking out sideways. The fear that underneath all of it, you are not enough to have the life you want, not enough to become the person you know you're capable of being, not enough, full stop. The failures you carry that nobody knows about because you never let anyone close enough to see them. The version of yourself that you are most ashamed of. It all shows up in the silence. And this is where most people who try to disappear come running back. Not because the outside world called them back, because the inside world became too loud. Because sitting with themselves, really sitting with themselves, without distraction, without noise, without the buffer of other people's needs to focus on, is more than they bargained for. But the ones who stay in the silence, the ones who stay in the silence discover something that changes everything. The things you've been running from do not destroy you when you face them. They are painful. Some of them are profoundly, viscerally painful in ways that take time and honesty and real courage to move through, but they do not destroy you. And the moment you discover that, the moment you sit with the hardest thing about yourself and find out that you can survive the encounter, something shifts at a level so fundamental that it cannot be undone. You are no longer afraid of yourself.
And a person who is not afraid of themselves is a different kind of person entirely. A person who is not afraid of themselves does not need external validation to feel stable,
Does not need the approval of the room to feel certain. Does not need to control how other people see them because they are no longer hiding something that they're terrified someone will find. There is nothing left to hide. The silence burned it all clean. And what remains after the burning is something true, something real, something that belongs to you in a way that the performed version never did. Now, let's talk about the rebuilding. Because disappearing is not the destination. The silence is not the goal. The absence is just the condition under which the real work becomes possible. The rebuilding is the work. And rebuilding is not the same as building. Building is starting from nothing with possibility in every direction. Rebuilding is harder than that. Rebuilding means you first have to reckon with what fell apart and why. You have to look honestly at the structure that collapsed, the habits, the identity, the relationships, the patterns, and understand not just that they failed, but why they failed. What they were built on, what they were hiding, what they were compensating for. Because if you don't understand what failed and why, you will rebuild the same structure with new materials and it will fail in the same way. Most people who disappear and come back do exactly this. They are gone for a while. They feel better. They return with energy and resolve and the genuine intention to be different. And within months, sometimes weeks, the old patterns are back. The old relationships reassert themselves. The old habits creep in through the small moments. The old identity reestablishes itself because it was never actually replaced. It was just rested. Resting is not rebuilding. Rebuilding requires demolition first. Demolition means looking at the specific things that made you the person you disappeared from and being willing to let them go. Not some of them, the foundational ones. The story about who you are and what you're capable of. That story was written mostly by other people, by environments and experiences and relationships that had enormous influence over you at times when you were most impressionable.
And that story, however long ago it was written, is still the operating system you're running. The beliefs embedded in it are still the beliefs you act from.
The ceiling it describes is still the ceiling you bump against. Not the memories, not the experiences. The story you built from them. The interpretation, the meaning you assigned, the conclusion you drew about yourself. The story that says people like you don't quite make it. The story that says wanting more than you have is greedy or unrealistic or naive. The story that says you are defined by the worst things you've done or the hardest things that happened to you. The story that says the best version of you is theoretical, possible for others, not quite available for you. That story is not the truth. It is a document from the past being applied to the present. And the present is different. You are different. The person you are right now has survived things the person who wrote that story hadn't faced yet. Has learned things that story didn't account for. Has capacity that story didn't know existed. You have outgrown the story. The rebuilding is the process of writing a new one. With evidence, with behavior, with the accumulation of daily decisions that confirm a different version of who you are. Let me talk about what gets built in the silence that wasn't there before. The first thing that gets built is standards. Real standards. Not the performative kind, not the standards you announce to make yourself sound disciplined. The internal kind. The kind that operate even when nobody is watching. The kind that make you uncomfortable in your own skin when you fall below them, not because of what anyone else will think, but because of what you know about yourself.
Most people's standards are entirely externally referenced. They behave a certain way when people are watching. They maintain certain habits when they're accountable to someone.
They hold certain lines when there's a consequence for crossing them. Remove the external reference, and the standards go with it.
In the silence, when there is no external reference, when nobody is watching, when there is no accountability structure and no consequence for folding in that condition, you discover what your real standards are.
What you actually hold. What you're actually made of, when none of the scaffolding is there. And for most people, that discovery is uncomfortable. Because most people, in the absence of external structure, fold. Not dramatically, quietly. In the small moments, in the private choices that nobody sees. And the uncomfortable discovery of that, the honest confrontation with the gap between your stated standards and your actual ones, that is the beginning of building real ones. Because you cannot build what you cannot see. The silence shows you what's real. And then you build from there. The second thing that gets built is clarity about what you actually want. Not what you're supposed to want. Not what the people around you want for you. Not what makes sense given where you came from, or what seems realistic given where you've been. What you actually want.
This sounds simple. It is not simple. Most people have spent so long managing other people's expectations, fitting into other people's visions of who they should be, making themselves acceptable and legible and unthreatening to the people around them that they have genuinely lost contact with their own wanting. They don't know what they want anymore.
They know what they should want. They know what they're supposed to be working toward. But the direct, honest, uncomplicated experience of their own desire that has been buried under layers of performance and accommodation for so long that it takes real silence and real time to find it again. In the disappearance, you find it. And when you find it, when you finally hear your own wanting without the noise of everyone else's expectations over the top of it, it is specific. It is clear. It is not vague aspiration. It is a direction. A pull. Something that feels in the body like a compass finding north. And once you have that, once you have genuine clarity about what you want and why every decision becomes simpler, not easier, simpler, because you have a reference point. You have something to measure options against. You have a direction that is yours and not borrowed or inherited or performed. That clarity is one of the most valuable things the disappearance builds. The third thing that gets built is tolerance. Specifically, tolerance for discomfort. In the noise, in the busy, crowded, performing version of life that you disappeared from, discomfort was managed. Every time it showed up, there was something to reach for to take the edge off. A distraction, a conversation, a substance, a screen, something to put between you and the raw feeling of whatever was difficult. In the silence, there is nothing to reach for. And so, the discomfort comes, and you feel it, the full weight of it, unmediated, without escape. and you survive it.
And the next time it comes, it is slightly less overwhelming. Not because it's smaller, because you are slightly larger. Because you have evidence now that discomfort does not destroy you. That you can feel the hard thing and not collapse under it. That the feelings you were most afraid of, the ones you built your entire avoidance architecture around, are survivable. Uncomfortable, yes. Painful. Sometimes profoundly. But survivable. And a person who knows from direct experience that discomfort is survivable moves through the world completely differently from a person who has only ever managed it. That person is no longer organized around avoidance. And a life not organized around avoidance opens in ways that are almost impossible to describe to someone who hasn't experienced it. Every option you ruled out because it was too uncomfortable becomes available. Every conversation you avoided because the feelings it might bring up were too much becomes possible. Every version of yourself that required walking through discomfort to reach becomes accessible. The whole map expands. Now let's talk about coming back. Because this is the part that is most misunderstood by everyone who watches someone disappear and return. When you come back, and I use that word loosely, because coming back does not necessarily mean returning to the same physical place, or the same relationships, or the same life. When the rebuilt version of you re-enters the world does not automatically recognize what happened. People see you. They see someone who looks familiar. Same face, same voice, same history. And they relate to you from that familiarity. They pick up where they left off. They reach for the version of you they knew. The role you used to play. The dynamic you used to inhabit. The character they were comfortable with. And the character is not there anymore. And this creates friction. Not because you became difficult. Not because you became arrogant, or cold, or dismissive. But because the needs and the dynamics and the relational patterns that the old version of you participated in, the ones that required you to be smaller, or more available, or more accommodating, or less honest than you actually were, those needs have not changed just because you have. The people who needed the old version still need the old version. And the old version is not available anymore. This is the part that hurts in ways that the process of disappearing did not prepare you for. Because you come back with love for the people in your life. You come back with no desire to hurt anyone, with no attitude of superiority, with nothing but the genuine hope that the people you care about will be able to meet the new version of you. Some of them will. Some of them will surprise you with their capacity to grow with you. Some of them will meet you where you are, and the relationship will become something it was never capable of being when you were both operating from smaller versions of yourselves. But some will not. Some will need you to go back, will apply pressure, subtle, persistent, sometimes unconscious pressure to return to the role they knew. Will reframe your growth as change in the negative sense. We'll call it arrogance, or coldness, or selfishness, or forgetting where you came from. And the version of you that came back different has to hold, has to stay, has to resist the pull of the familiar, not because the familiar people are bad, but because returning to who you were to make them comfortable would be the most profound betrayal of the work you did in the silence. You did not disappear and rebuild to come back and perform the old character for an audience that prefers it. You came back to live, actually live, as yourself. As the version that was built in the fire of the silence and the honesty and the hard work of demolishing what was false and constructing what was real. That version has no room for the old performance. Not as a choice, not as attitude. Structurally, fundamentally, the rebuilt version of you cannot fit into the shape of the old one any more than a grown man can fit into the clothes he wore at 12. It is not rejection. It is simply that you have outgrown the container. Ooh, the silence was not punishment. The disappearance was not failure. The friction of coming back different is not a sign that you did something wrong. It is all evidence of the same thing, that you chose yourself, maybe for the first time, and everything that is being built from that choice, the life, the relationships, the work, the person you are becoming day by day, all of it is downstream of that one decision, to go quiet, to face yourself honestly, to build something true.
And to come back is it fully, without apology, without going back. Ooh, that is not a small thing. That is everything.